My fiancé said, "He makes me feel alive." I replied, "Then go die together." Then I sold the house, canceled the honeymoon, ghosted everyone, and I smiled when alive, gave her an STD. Hey Reddit, he makes me feel alive in ways you never could. Those were the exact words that came out of my fiancée Melissa's mouth while standing in our kitchen. The kitchen we'd picked out countertops for together, where we'd argued about cabinet colors, where I proposed to her on a random Tuesday because I couldn't wait for some manufactured romantic moment. I stood there holding a bag of groceries, the organic vegetables she'd specifically requested, the salmon she loved, the expensive olive oil she insisted made everything taste better. Then go die together, I said, setting the bag on the counter with more control than I thought I possessed. Because this, I gestured between us, is already dead. Her face went pale. Wait, I didn't mean... Get out. It's my house too. Check the deed. It's mine. You have 1 hour. I'm 37 years old, was engaged to be married in 12 weeks, had a wedding venue booked in Minneapolis, deposits down, a honeymoon planned to Iceland, had a life that looked perfect from the outside. Keyword, had. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't knock politely. It kicks down the door wearing your fiancé's face and holding hands with some guy named Brandon who works as her personal trainer and apparently knows how to make her feel alive. I found out the old-fashioned way. Her Instagram story lit up while she thought I was asleep. A mirror selfie from the gym with Brandon's hands on her waist, caption, post-workout endorphins. The kind of photo you don't post when you're planning a wedding in 12 weeks. When I confronted her that night, she didn't deny it. She cried, said it meant nothing, said it was just physical, said Brandon understood her in ways I couldn't. That last part made me laugh. Actually laugh. Understanding you, is that what we're calling it now? You don't get it, she said, mascara running down her face in black rivers. You're always so controlled, so measured. Brandon is spontaneous. He's passionate. He makes me feel alive. Yeah, you mentioned that. Here's what nobody tells you about moments like this. There's a split second where you can feel yourself becoming someone different, someone harder, someone who stops giving a damn about playing nice or being the bigger person. I felt that shift happen in real time. How long? I asked. 3 months? 3 months. We'd been engaged for 6, together for 3 years before that. I was a senior marketing director at a decent firm. She was a graphic designer. We had a good life in our $340K house in a nice Minneapolis suburb. I'd worked my ass off for 14 years to get where I was, climbing from entry-level coordinator to director, weathering 3 recessions and 2 company mergers. Does he know you're engaged? She hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. He knows. We both know what this is. Which is? I don't know. I'm confused. I love you, but Brandon makes you feel alive. Got it. Crystal clear. I grabbed my keys and left, drove to a hotel, sat in the parking lot for an hour just staring at the steering wheel. The old me would have gone back, would have talked it through, would have suggested couples therapy and worked on us and asked what I could do better. The new me, the one born in that kitchen, had different plans. I called my lawyer Rich Palmer at 8 a.m. the next morning. Rich had handled my business contracts for years. Good guy, played golf badly, but gave excellent advice. I need to know my options, I told him. Legally or emotionally? Both. Emotionally, I can't help you. Legally, let me look at your documents. Turned out the house was entirely in my name. I'd bought it 2 years before we met. She'd moved in after 18 months of dating, contributing to utilities but never getting added to the deed. We'd talked about it, but never followed through. Thank God for procrastination. The wedding venue was trickier. We'd split the $50K budget, but I'd put down $35K. The contract had my name as primary. I could cancel and lose the deposit, or wait until 8 weeks out and claim irreconcilable differences for insurance coverage. I had 12 weeks. I could wait. When I got back to the house that afternoon, my house, she was still there, sitting on the couch we'd bought together, surrounded by tissues, looking miserable. We need to talk, she said. No, we really don't. Please, I made a mistake. I'll end it with Brandon. We can fix this. I walked past her into the kitchen, opened the fridge, grabbed a beer. Here's what's going to happen. You're moving out this weekend. I don't care where. Brandon's place, your sister's, a hotel. Not my problem. You'll take your personal belongings. Anything we bought together stays here because I paid for most of it anyway. You're being cruel. I'm being fair. Cruel would be what you did. I'm just cleaning house. What about the wedding? What about it? We can postpone. Give ourselves time. There is no wedding. There is no ourselves. There's you, there's me, and there's a whole lot of legal paperwork to untangle. She started crying again. The thing about crying is that it used to work on me. Used to make me want to fix things, make peace, be the comforter. Not anymore. I'll call my sister, she said quietly. Good idea. She left that Saturday, took 3 carloads of stuff, kept trying to have one last conversation. I stayed in my office with the door locked until I heard her car pull away for the final time. Then I sat in the silence of my house, my fully mine house, and felt absolutely nothing. That should have worried me. It didn't. My friends started reaching out immediately. Word travels fast in Minneapolis, especially when you work in marketing and everyone knows everyone else's business. Dude, what happened? My buddy Chris texted that Sunday evening. Wedding's off. Why? She cheated with her personal trainer, says he makes her feel alive. That's the quote. Holy shit, you okay? Honestly, I have no idea. But I'm not okay. I'm something better than okay. I'm free. People don't talk about how good rage can feel when it's channeled properly. Not the explosive kind, but the cold, calculated kind. The kind that wakes up every morning with purpose. Monday morning, I started making calls. First, I went to the gym at 5 a.m., something I hadn't done consistently in months. The weight room was nearly empty except for a few dedicated early birds. I loaded up the bench press with more weight than I'd attempted in years and surprised myself by getting through 3 sets without struggling. Physical pain felt good. It was honest, unlike everything else in my life had been. At the office, I told my assistant I'd be making personal calls between meetings. Started with the wedding venue. I need to cancel, I told the coordinator. Oh no, is everything okay? You're only 12 weeks out. Personal reasons. But I understand there's an insurance clause for irreconcilable differences. Yes, if you have documentation and it's at least 8 weeks before the event, I have documentation. I'll email it over when we get closer to the deadline. Of course, I'm so sorry this didn't work out. Me too, thanks for your help. I hung up and felt nothing. No sadness, no regret, just the satisfaction of checking a box. The honeymoon was easier. Travel insurance covered breakups if you had documentation. A quick email to Rich Palmer. Forwarded screenshots of Instagram stories and text messages I'd saved before Melissa could delete anything. Within 3 hours, I had confirmation of a full refund minus processing fee, $6,000 back in my account. I took that $6,000 and booked a solo trip to Iceland instead. 2 weeks in February, nice hotels in Reykjavik, and the countryside, no itinerary. Just me, the Northern Lights, and whatever I felt like doing. Brandon, as it turned out, was exactly what you'd expect. I may have used some company resources to look into him, purely for security purposes, of course. Mid-30s, personal trainer at an upscale gym downtown, drove a BMW he clearly couldn't afford based on his social media lifestyle. Had an ex-wife in St. Paul, a 7-year-old daughter he saw every other weekend, and an apparent allergy to monogamy based on the 3 other clients I found him tagged with in photos over the past 6 months. His Instagram was a masterclass in midlife crisis disguised as fitness motivation, shirtless mirror selfies with inspirational quotes about living your truth and breaking free from societal expectations. The kind of content that made sense to a 32-year-old graphic designer going through her own quarter-life crisis, I suppose. But that wasn't my business anymore. My family started calling by Wednesday. My mom first, then my dad, then my sister. Word had gotten back to them somehow, probably through Melissa's family connections. Jordan, honey, what's going on? My mom asked. Melissa's mother called and said the wedding might be postponed. It's not postponed, Mom. It's canceled. She cheated. Silence. Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. Do you want to talk about it? Not really. I'm handling it. Maybe you two could work through this. Couples therapy? Mom, she's been sleeping with her personal trainer for 3 months while we were planning our wedding. There's nothing to work through. Another pause. I just think maybe if you... I need to go. I'll call you this weekend. My dad was more direct when he called an hour later. Your mother's upset. I figured. You doing okay? Yeah, Dad, I'm fine. Good. Life's too short to waste time on people who don't respect you. Agreed. You need anything, you call? Thanks. That was it. No lectures about forgiveness or second chances. Just practical support from a man who had been married to my mother for 42 years and understood something about commitment. Chris stopped by Thursday evening with beer and takeout from my favorite Thai place. You're really doing this, he said, settling into my living room chair. Doing what? The whole nuclear option thing. Scorched earth. I prefer to think of it as cleaning house. Man, I don't know if I could be that decisive. Sarah cheated on me in college, and I spent 6 months trying to win her back. How'd that work out? Terribly. She cheated again, obviously. He opened his beer. You seem different, though. Like, calmer than I expected. Different how? I don't know. Focused, I guess. Most guys in your situation would be drunk dialing their ex or posting angry shit on Facebook. You're over here methodically dismantling a wedding, like it's a business transaction. It is a business transaction. That's the thing people don't get about modern relationships. When you're talking about houses and joint accounts and wedding deposits, it stops being just about feelings. It becomes about protecting yourself legally and financially. That's pretty cold, man. Is it? Or is it just honest? Chris studied me over his beer. You're really not going to try to work it out? With someone who spent 3 months lying to my face? Who looked me in the eye every morning knowing she was fucking someone else? Who told me another man makes her feel alive in ways I never could? I shook my head. There's nothing to work out, Chris. She made her choice. What if she ends it with this Brandon guy? What if she comes back? Then she'll be disappointed. We ate our pad thai in comfortable silence, watching the Vikings game on my new 65-inch TV. I'd bought it the day after Melissa moved out. Something she'd always said was too big for the living room. Turned out she was wrong about that too. Friday afternoon, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. Jordan, this is Melissa's sister Kate. Can we talk? I stared at it for a minute, then deleted it without responding. Kate had always liked me, but this wasn't her business. If Melissa wanted to communicate, she could do it herself. She tried again an hour later. I know you're angry, but Melissa is really struggling. She made a huge mistake and she knows it. Delete. Please just call me. 5 minutes. Delete and block. That weekend, I started on the smaller wedding vendors. The photographer was understanding. Destination wedding photographer who'd seen it all before. She offered to reschedule for a future date or refund the deposit minus administrative costs. I took the refund. The DJ was less accommodating. Contracts said no refunds within 90 days of the event. I let it go. $2,000 wasn't worth the hassle, and honestly, the money didn't matter as much as the principle. Every cancellation felt like removing a weight I hadn't realized I'd been carrying. The florist tried to guilt trip me. Mr. Bennett, we've already ordered your specific flowers. Peonies in February aren't easy to source. I understand. Keep the deposit. Do something nice for another couple. She softened immediately. That's very generous. I'm sorry things didn't work out. By the end of February, I'd lost 22 pounds and gained something harder to quantify. Confidence maybe, or just clarity about what I would and wouldn't accept in my life. I'd been going to the gym 6 days a week, not out of vanity, but because physical exhaustion was the only thing that let me sleep. My barber talked me into a completely different haircut. You've got good bone structure, Tony said, buzzing off the corporate safe cut I'd worn for a decade. Let's make you look like you don't work in accounting. I don't work in accounting. You know what I mean? I bought new clothes that actually fit. Threw away the dad jeans and polo shirt uniform I'd defaulted to for years. Started dressing like the successful professional I'd become instead of the guy I'd been in my 20s. My coworkers noticed. You look good, Jordan, said Lisa from Creative. Different, sharper. Thanks. Dating anyone? Not yet. Well, when you're ready, I have a friend. I'll keep that in mind. But I wasn't ready. I was still in the dismantling phase, and it felt important to finish that completely before building anything new. Week 8 rolled around. The wedding was now 4 weeks away. Time for the venue insurance clause. I need to cancel, I told the coordinator. I have the documentation you requested. Oh, Mr. Bennett, I hoped you might work things out. We didn't. Can you process the insurance claim? Of course. I'll need those documents today to meet the deadline. I emailed over the screenshots, the Instagram evidence, the text message chains where Melissa admitted to the affair. Clinical documentation of betrayal reduced to PDF attachments. The deposit came back 3 days later, $15K. I donated $7K to a men's mental health charity and kept the rest for my Iceland fund. That same week, Melissa started her apology tour. First came the texts from yet another new number. "Jordan, please, we need to talk." Delete. I ended it with "Brandon, it's over. We can fix this." Delete. "I made the biggest mistake of my life. I know that now." Delete. "Please just give me 5 minutes. I'll explain everything." Delete and block. Then came the emails. Long, rambling messages about how she'd realized what she'd lost, how Brandon was nothing compared to what we had, how she understood now that I was the one she wanted to build a life with. I forwarded them to Rich Palmer with a note, "Documentation for restraining order if needed." Rich called within the hour. "You don't actually want a restraining order." "Why not?" "Because she's not threatening you. She's just desperate. And desperate people eventually give up if you don't feed their hope." "How long is eventually?" "Depends how stubborn she is. But you're doing it right. No contact means no contact. Don't give her anything to work with." She tried calling from different numbers. I stopped answering unknown calls entirely. If it was important, they'd leave a voicemail. She showed up at my office on a Thursday afternoon. I was in meetings, but my assistant texted me, "Melissa Bennett is in reception asking to see you." I texted back, "Tell her I'm unavailable and she needs to schedule through my lawyer if she wants to communicate." My assistant, bless her, delivered the message perfectly. Melissa left without causing a scene. The next week, she tried my house. I saw her through the window, standing on my front porch looking smaller than I remembered. She rang the doorbell 3 times, then knocked. I stayed in my kitchen, drinking coffee and reading the news on my phone. After 20 minutes, she left. My neighbor Pete came over that evening. "Everything okay? I saw your ex over here." "Earlier. Everything's fine. She's having trouble accepting that it's over." "You need me to have a word with her?" Pete was 65, retired from the fire department, and not someone you wanted to argue with. "Thanks, but I think she got the message. Let me know if she comes back." Friends kept asking if I was dating. The question started to annoy me, not because I was bitter about relationships, but because it assumed I needed to be coupled to be happy. "Why aren't you on the apps yet?" Chris asked during one of our Thursday night dinners. "Because I like my life the way it is." "Come on, man. You're 37, good looking, own your house, have a solid career. You could be cleaning up out there." "I don't want to clean up. I want to live my life without having to consider someone else's feelings about every decision I make." "That's not what relationships are, isn't it? When was the last time you bought something significant without checking with Amy first? When did you last take a weekend trip just because you felt like it?" He thought about it. "That's different. We're married." "Exactly. And right now, I'm not interested in checking with anyone about anything. I'm interested in figuring out who I am when I'm not half of a couple. What if you meet someone amazing? Then I'll deal with that when it happens, but I'm not looking." March rolled around. The wedding would have been next week. I felt nothing about that fact except mild relief that I'd dodged a bullet. That Tuesday, what would have been our wedding day, I took a personal day and drove up to Duluth, sat by Lake Superior for hours, watching the ice formations along the shore. It was peaceful in a way I hadn't experienced in months. My phone buzzed once, a text from an unknown number. "I hope you know what you've thrown away." I looked at it, then threw the phone in my glove compartment and went for a walk along the lake. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in the Blue Lagoon geothermal spa, in Iceland, drinking expensive champagne and watching the northern lights dance across the sky. The 6K I'd recovered from the honeymoon cancellation had turned into the best solo trip of my life. I spent 14 days exploring Reykjavik, hiking to waterfalls that made me feel small in the best possible way, and not thinking about Melissa or Brandon or weddings or any of it. I met other solo travelers, a woman from Australia, a guy from Denmark who was taking a sabbatical from his engineering job, people who'd chosen solitude not because they were running from something, but because they were running toward themselves. "Why Iceland?" the Australian woman asked over coffee in a cafe that looked like it belonged in a fairy tale. "Needed a reset, bad breakup. Want to talk about it?" "Not even a little." She smiled. "Fair enough. Sometimes the best therapy is just being somewhere completely different." She was right. I came back to Minneapolis feeling like I'd shed a skin. My house, which I'd been slowly redecorating, finally felt like mine instead of ours. I'd replaced the dining table Melissa and I had picked out together, bought a new couch, slowly erased every trace of shared decisions until my space reflected only my preferences. The first week back, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. "This is Brandon, we should talk." I stared at it for a solid minute, then replied, "No, we shouldn't. I think I owe you an apology." "You don't owe me anything. You're a stranger who slept with my fiancée. That's it." She told me you two were basically over, and you believed her. Here's the thing, Brandon. I don't care. She made her choice, you made yours, I made mine. We're all living with the consequences. But you and I have nothing to discuss. Fair enough? I blocked the number and went about my day. 3 days later, Melissa texted from yet another new number. "I have something important to tell you." Against my better judgment. "What?" "Brandon gave me chlamydia." I read it 3 times. Then I laughed. Actually laughed out loud in the middle of a Starbucks. People stared. I didn't care. "Good luck with that," I replied. "Hope you feel alive." "That's all you have to say?" "What else is there? You made your bed with Brandon, now you're lying in it, literally. You're an asshole. And you're someone else's problem now. Congratulations on feeling alive. Block, delete, done." That night, I opened a bottle of expensive scotch I'd been saving for the wedding toast, poured myself 2 fingers, raised the glass to my empty living room. "To Brandon," I said out loud, "the gift that keeps on giving." I drank it slowly, savoring every sip and the absolute peace of my own space. 6 months later, I ran into Melissa at Target. She looked rough, thinner, tired, her hair different and less styled. We made awkward eye contact in the frozen food section. "Hey," she said quietly. "Hey." Uncomfortable silence. "You look good," she said. "Thanks." "Are you seeing anyone?" "Not your business." "Right, of course." She paused. "I really am sorry for everything." "Okay. That's it? Just okay?" "What do you want me to say, Melissa? That I forgive you? That we can be friends? That I understand?" "I don't. I won't. And we can't. I just thought..." "You thought wrong. Take care of yourself." I walked away before she could respond, stood in the cereal aisle for 5 minutes, feeling absolutely nothing. No anger, no sadness, no lingering what-ifs. Just relief that I'd never have to have that conversation again. A year later, I'm sitting in my completely remodeled house with plans to meet friends tonight and a 4th date this weekend with someone who shares my values and doesn't need a personal trainer to feel alive. Someone who appreciates the version of me that exists now, the one who knows his worth, who won't tolerate disrespect, who can walk away when something isn't right. I heard through mutual friends that Melissa got engaged to some guy she met at a yoga retreat. I had no reaction to give. Good for her. Her happiness or misery had nothing to do with me anymore. I still think about that moment in the kitchen when she said Brandon made her feel alive, and my response, "Then go die together." It was harsh, probably too harsh, but it was also the moment I stopped being someone who accepted less than I deserved. So to anyone reading this, facing their own kitchen moment, their own Brandon, their own person who makes them feel like they're not enough, walk away. Cancel the wedding if you need to. Sell the house. Ghost everyone who doesn't support your decision to choose peace over chaos. And when that person comes crawling back with apologies and regrets and STDs they got from feeling alive, smile, block the number, and live your life so well they become nothing more than a cautionary tale. Because the best revenge isn't making them suffer, it's making them irrelevant. And trust me, nothing makes someone more irrelevant than being completely forgotten by someone who used to plan their entire future around you. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply refuse to let someone else's poor decisions define your worth. The moment you stop fighting for someone who's already shown you where their priorities lie is the moment you start fighting for yourself. And that's a battle you can actually win.